Hi, it's Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video, something a little bit different. This is somewhat of a fix or fail, but unfortunately it's not for somebody else, it's actually for me. I'll try and make this as brief as possible, but we have a motherboard, which you can probably guess, this one here. This is the MSI B650M-P. I'm a cheapskate, most of you know this already, but to try and save a few pennies, went onto eBay and actually found one of these boards available for somewhere in the region about £45 cheaper than the normal retail price. So a significant saving, about a third of the price off. These are normally in the region of about £125 to £130 brand new. So that was the beginning of it. Bought it from an eBay seller. It was described as being opened but unused. So I thought, well, you can't go too far wrong with that. The seller had very low feedback, which was unfortunate, but as with most things, you do have eBay, PayPal protection, all that kind of good stuff. So you can take somewhat of a bit of a punt. Unfortunately, actually in the listing, there was no pictures of the actual CPU socket, which is a little bit daunting because you do like to see the pins. Unfortunately, when the package arrived, which was this morning, first thing I did, take it out of the packaging, see what it's all about. There were some signs of the actual motherboard being used, and if you look at some of the close-ups of the actual socket itself, you'll see that unfortunately some of the pins do seem to be misaligned. Whether they're bent or not, I'm not entirely sure. I have had a look with a magnifying glass. They don't look entirely bent, but they don't all look completely uniform, which is a little bit of a concern. Also, around the actual socket itself, there are signs of thermal paste, which has been lodged on the side rather than being on top of the processor, as you'd expect it to be. So clearly, this board at some point has been used and an attempt has been made to install a processor. Now, whether or not that attempt actually went okay, or maybe it's just a buggy board, as B650s tend to be, who knows? Potentially this was an Amazon return or something along those lines. There was a sticker on the box which kind of hinted at that, but otherwise the board looks to be in pretty decent shape. So in today's video, what we're going to try and do is see if this board actually works. Now, mostly this video is more for me documenting this particular thing, so I can hopefully make a claim with eBay at a later date should it not work. I am slightly optimistic that it might work, although there are some things which are going against it. Now, the processor that I have available to test this is this one here. So this is the Ryzen 5 7500F, which shipped itself all the way from China into my sweaty little hands. And unfortunately, this motherboard, we don't know what BIOS is actually on the board. So there is a BIOS version which actually supports this processor, but it's not the original one. So we do have to update the BIOS potentially because we just have no idea what BIOS is on here. And as always, with most things, if you're building a new system, it does make sense to try and flash the BIOS. So for those of you that don't want to see that, you won't, don't worry. That's going to be in a separate video, which I will link in the video description, just so you can see how it's all done. But the next thing you're going to see, hopefully, is going to be me after the BIOS is flashed, and we're going to be trying this processor to see if we can actually get any signs of life out of it on this little platform. So I'm going to head off and do a BIOS update, and I'll be right back after that. Okay, so we've got a very, very crude setup here. I've just flashed the BIOS. That seems to have gone okay. For those that are wondering, if you do get one of these boards, the BIOS flashback port is the bottom one underneath the keyboard port. So if you do need to do that, that is the one to use. It isn't actually labeled up. You can only find it in the manual, and the manual's only online. So yeah, if you haven't got a computer, you're a little bit screwed. Anyway, got the RAM installed, got a older graphics card, which hopefully should work with this. Potentially it might not. We have got a diagnostic LED so we can check out. We've got a portable monitor here, got our power supply hooked up. So yeah, I think we're pretty much ready. So we're going to flick this on and fingers crossed. And let's find the front panel connector. So that is going to be that one there. So we have signs of life to begin with. The RAM has initialized. It is going to take a little while for doing RAM training. The CPU cooler isn't properly installed, so we'll just see how that goes. Currently the CPU and the RAM light are on. Now just the RAM light. Now those have both gone off. So we're just waiting now for some kind of display, which, oh my actual Christ. I cannot believe this has actually worked. Unbelievable. I haven't read what it says on the screen yet. But anyway, we've gone into the BIOS. And is it showing both sticks of RAM? That is something which I'm a little bit concerned about. So I can't even see where it says how much RAM is installed. Should say here somewhere. No, can't see it there. Let's go into memory. And yeah, it's actually showing both Kingston sticks there. This is HyperX RAM, or whatever it was called. So yeah, it appears to work. Absolutely incredible. I was expecting this to not work, to be completely honest with you. And although it is booting, I was just looking at the Expo profiles there and it looked a bit weird, but it's okay. Yeah, I wasn't expecting this to work at all. I was expecting that the bent pins would cause the system to not work at all. So it looks like if you have got bent pins on your motherboard, there is a little bit of potential leeway. It seems to work. So maybe at some point we might reinvestigate this and maybe try and straighten those pins out. But realistically, the fact that it's actually working, we've got a post, everything seems to be okay. I am very surprised. But this video was primarily just for me to document this process of seeing if this motherboard actually worked, and also actually to see if our processor worked, because this came all the way from China, from AliExpress, the 7500F, which cost about £140, which I think is actually cracking value for money. And the motherboard, we picked it for about £85, so not too much over £200 for an actually a really powerful little setup. So I need to go off and install Windows and all that kind of stuff and do some testing to do some benchmarks on this processor. So if you're looking for a video on the 7500F and how it performs on the modern AM5 platform, obviously hit the subscribe button and the chime notification and you'll be notified of future video releases. I think that's going to wrap this one up. It's been actually successful. I'm pretty pleased. I'm actually shocked, but pretty pleased at the same time. So let me know in the comments, did you expect this to work or did you expect it to be a failure? I honestly thought it was going to be a failure. I was planning for this motherboard to go back to the seller. I have already messaged them saying, look, this looks like the board's been used. Yeah, anyway, but it works, and at present I'm very happy, but we have to do some testing to confirm that everything works and plug in some various PCI Express devices, try memory slots, all that kind of stuff, just to confirm that all the pins are actually making contact with something and they work. Anyway, that's going to wrap this one up. I've been Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.